Rebecca, do you want to just introduce yourself for everybody and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Rebecca Nedelka, and I have been with EXP coming up on 3 years at the end of March. I've been an agent for a little over four, and in Northeast Ohio, uh, primarily Cleveland area. I do bounce into Akron and the Youngstown area a little bit because I'm kind of central to all of that. So, um, and that's it. I have two grown kids. Um, so my life is in the late stages of not having to chase kids and drive them and whatnot to make the time a little bit difficult to manage. I have a lot more flexibility. So
Yeah, I feel that that's where I am, so I totally understand and get that.
yeah.
I'm sorry, did you mention how many years you have been in real estate?
Um, four, just over four. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And you're already selling houses like crazy and
Yeah, I just closed my transaction that made me hit icon. So it is official today.
oh yay! And here's
Yeah.
Jesse, he's back.
Yes. So exciting. That was the goal. I never thought that was going to be a thing. And now it's like it happened my first year with the XP. So now it's not an option.
So how many times have you been icon now?
Three,
Three times icon. And how long have you been in the business?
4 years with the XP for three.
4 years. And I say this every time you're on, and you might have said this a minute ago. Did you
Nope.
talk? Okay, so we're not going to go deep into this because there's other episodes you can listen to with like Rebecca's journey, but like I just got to set the context for those of you that have never met Rebecca before. Not only is she a hardworking, wonderful human being in Ohio, but like she's been in real estate for 4 years. Her first 18 months, how many deals closed in real estate?
Five.
Five deals in her first year and a half. The next year, switched to EXP. How many deals closed?
Uh, 34,
And the year after that?
uh, 52.
Okay, and this is 52 homes sold in a year. This is not you, and then you just did it again. Your third icon. Okay, this means like icon's this award because she's selling like ridiculous amounts of homes. And is this you and a giant team?
Oh no, just me.
Okay, that's the context for what we're talking about for the next 30 minutes. This is a person. Do you have any help in your back office at this point?
No, I
Still,
I
still
need
no.
I need to. I'm probably teetering at that point. I've been debating it for a while now. I struggle with a couple things, releasing the control and paying somebody. Like, ugh, I'm like, but it costs me money to give it to them. And
So today doesn't need to be an intervention. That's okay. We can talk about it offline, or we can have part of our discussion here. We can talk about leverage, Rebecca, because it might be helpful for other people to listen
right.
to, because you're at the level where you're literally selling 50 homes a year by yourself, which first of all, for some people listening to this, they don't even know that's possible, right? The
Yeah.
fact that that's possible is like mind blowing to some people. Okay. Second, we can talk about leverage, but before we dive into that, did you, I don't know if you came today with anything like you wanted to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Anything you want to chat about?
Um, Not really. I mean, I've been doing a lot of this year, kind of my year had to start with a whole business evaluation and really digging deep and to figure out like transaction coordinator, what do I think about that? My budget and my spending and where am I best using my resources and kind of pull out the mistakes that I've made over the last couple of years. I mean, it's not been 30, it's been a few. And I know that last year, I spent money on things and I'm trying to evaluate, did that make sense? Where can I use that better? And the reality is a transaction coordinator, I think this year I'm pushing towards almost 60 and
60 homes sold.
mhm.
Okay, and what's your average price point? Let's get some context to this. What's your
Um, so that's a tough one. And everybody like one of the things is my business plan for the year, like, okay, girl, you need to get on this and you need to do better about laying it out, just not fly by the seat of my pants and like, okay, well, here's a house and here's a house and whatever, and just do it. I need to get myself that reality check of you need to do this, but you also need to figure out your plan. So average price, I work with a
Well, I gotta pause you. I just think this is so cool. Like, I love the fact that you can set, like, you can be wildly successful. I think anyone watching this would be like, that's wildly successful. You sold, unless you spent millions of dollars to generate those leads, which I already know where your leads come from. You don't have a huge marketing budget. You're not spending money in that case. Like, you can sell lots of houses and still quote unquote make mistakes and still be trying to figure out how to get it right. Imagine what we can do and what you can do with your business when we get some of these systems and the leverage in place. Jason just had a really insightful comment in the chat box. I'll read it, and then we'll get to your sales price, Rebecca. Jason said, leverage is good, but like compound interest, it is your best friend or worst enemy, right? Main thing is maintain your profitability while scaling. So fully agree, Jason. That's why I'm really holding myself back because I want to go so deep into this, but I also want to give value because Rebecca does so many cool things instead of us just like, I don't want to make this all about Rebecca's intervention because you need some leverage, Rebecca. We're gonna
I do. I know I do.
all right, all right. But what's your average price point, just so we get some context on this?
So it does vary drastically. Like I work with investors, so that drags it down, obviously. But
Mhm.
like for me, that's one of the things. Do I want to keep investors in my pool of clients, or do I want to focus more on the traditional home buyers? Those vary between probably 200 and 400 on my traditional home buyers, but like investors are realistically 100,000 and under.
Okay.
Um,
And what percentage of your business is investors?
um, Probably like 25 to 30%.
Okay. So
Those are the
significant, but not all of us.
transactions that help me icon because you can boom, boom, boom
Right.
with
So
multiple for one guy.
all right. So let's do this. Let's you and me book a call offline. But those of you listening, if you're looking at your own business from the outside, I'll give you a couple steps as to what you'd want to do. Then we will go deep offline. If you want to do it in front of people, we can have a session in front of people. But I want to know some things that are working for you. So we're going to change gears. But I do want to just give some people some if they want to look at their own business, we're looking at the percentage of her business that comes from investors because those are lower price point sales versus the higher price point ones. Where does she want to spend her time? Right? Then we're going to look at how she actually spends her time. There's something called the time study, whether or not she's done it, to break down where you're actually spending your time. Is it back end? Is it with clients? Which things have to be done by you? Which things can be delegated? Which things can be eliminated? These are some things we can look at offline. And anyone trying to put leverage in their business, that's what we would do. But today is not about that. So I'm gonna change gears back because I really I want to focus on investors are all, I mean, they're only 25-30% of your business. You're still doing a lot of traditional sales.
Right,
What is
right.
working really well for you right now? Like, how are you selling all these houses? What's working well?
Um, I try, like, I think the biggest thing is old past clients. I'm starting to get referrals from them. I still do the Op City, Up Nest, not quite as many. I find that a lot of the leads that I get that I don't know, they're not necessarily SOI or anything like that, come from EXP sources like Revenos, Relo, Affinity. And those are great leads because they're vetted, they're generally pre-approved, so they're ready to shop. The challenge with those is the referral fee is significantly higher. Um, and I've gone back and forth in my business, in my mind, are they worth it or are they not? Because, you see, and this comes down to commission, which anybody that knows me knows that I truly believe that it's not about the commission, it's about the relationship. And so I get in my head at times and think, oh my God, this check should have been like $10,000. And then I get it and it's like barely half. And so that's a struggle point sometimes. But then I look at it and think, okay, well, I worked really hard with them. They left me a good review. And I know that a lot of them end up referring friends and family. So that's where that advantage is that I might pay up front for that great lead that is going to close. And it's costing me a little bit more, but I know it didn't come out of my pocket to get nothing. It's coming out of what I've earned and it's building for my pipeline down the road because I know most of them I typically end up with a referral from. And so for me, it's just building that relationship.
Okay, so let's just, in case people don't know what Revenos is, that's at EXP. We have this engine that sends out referrals to agents, no fee up front, you pay on the back end. Very similar to OpsCity in terms of the way, like the mechanism, but I think the leads, it sounds like they might be better from Revenos, the quality. But
You don't have to filter through like OpsCity. Like if I look at my OpsCity, I've probably claimed, I mean, I can tell you, I can look at it. I've probably claimed close to 200 easily. And oh, yeah, I've claimed 200. And I've probably closed 40.
wow, that's still pretty good. So an OpsCity is owned by Realtor.com, so they're the overflow of Realtor.com leads. Again, no fee up front there, but you pay on the back end. It sounds like the way you built your business was a lot of low to no cost lead sources where you pay a referral fee on the back end, and you're now at the point 4 years in because your volume is high enough where it's like, is it worth continuing to take these lead sources because your biggest limiting factor is probably time at this point in your career, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
I mean,
those, oh, go
but my
ahead.
time is not the same as like my time. I benefit from my time because, like I said, my kids are grown. I don't really have anything restricting me on what I like the hours that I can work. I'm not running kids to events and things like that. So my time is my time, which is valuable, but
You see what this is, Rebecca?
a timer.
Yeah. Time moves the same speed for you. I recognize you have no kids, and I mean you have kids, they're grown now, but like, and you
Right.
can work more hours, but you're still bumping into a limit in the day to how many hours there are.
Yes.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, for sure.
that's what it is. So I think it makes sense if someone watching this is at the beginning of their career, just trying to jumpstart business, take every lead source you can. Like that's the nugget I just pulled from you is like take every lead source that doesn't cost anything, pay referrals in the back end, and because you just said you generate a referral from almost all of them. That's amazing. Okay. I
Right.
want to talk about that because now at this point in your career, well, I'm just making notes for when we talk offline. We need to talk about like, do you take these same lead sources or not? Every person you take that has a referral fee on the back end is taking time away from when you could be working on a client that doesn't have a referral fee on the back end, right?
Right.
But that's a trade-off that you get to when you start selling 30, 40, 50 deals a year or needing agents to refer to other leverage pieces, right? So
Right.
go ahead.
I definitely feel what you're saying. And one of the things that I'm really trying to focus on this year, which is another way to leverage, is more sellers versus buyers. And spending my more time and effort on generating seller leads versus buyer leads. Those sources are typically buyer. Now, Upnest is also a realtor.com, and those are more sellers for me. So I shut my OpsCity off a lot. Like I snooze it for a month at a time because those I know that I have to put more effort into. Like I'm not getting the percentage of closed versus some of the others. So I leave my Upnest open all the time because those are seller leads. And okay, I'm going to pay a 35% at close. But I mean, a lot of the leads that I've gotten from there are the higher end between $400,000 and $500,000. So I'm trying to figure that out better this year.
Yeah. But by the way, Liliana just said into the chat box, she says she wants to sit in when I give you advice. If you want to do it here, we could not this morning because I want you to be like prepared. I'll give you some homework what to put together. We could do it on an agent Power Huddle. Like if you won't mind people listening in, I think there's a number of people that as the market is picking back up, 2024 was a rough year for a lot of agents. You kicked butt, but a lot of agents struggled. As the market's starting to get busier in a lot of cities, people are running back into this challenge of like, where do I spend my time? How do I put some leverage in? Like Jason had a really insightful comment, and I said Jason should probably be interviewed, but by Shay on Agent Power one day. He said he came from a Zillow Flex team. Again, another no cost up front, pay on the back end, right? The referral fee. And it's about knowing your bandwidth and margins, right? Lead generation can make or break you. Like those are it's really, I wasn't expecting to have this conversation with you today because I was just going to come in and talk about the wonderful things you're doing, which I promise we will get to some of those too. But like, it's interesting to see the thought patterns that are pretty common that are starting to pop up with a number of people are relating to.
Yeah, I think part of what has helped me over every year I look at my numbers and I look at them in two different ways. I look at them on my EXP year and I look at them on the calendar year. Um, and it's important to me that every year there's growth, and both of those platforms, there's growth every year. So that's, regardless of how I look at it, whether I look at EXP or the calendar year, each year there's growth. And I feel like if you can't look at your business and yourself every year and figure out, what am I going to do differently this year? Because if I do the same thing I did last year, I'm probably not going to do any better. I have to figure out how I'm going to grow from year to year. There's got to be a change, because otherwise there's no growth. Unless I get lucky and score a bunch of big deals that whatever. But at the end of the day, it's got to take some change. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but literally every year I've been in real estate, every January, I leave Ohio and I go to Phoenix. And I go for a couple, 2, 3 weeks. I have a place out there and the snowbirds are all out there. I'm not my mom's in that park, but it's a 55 and over. So there's not a lot of noise and distraction. And I take part of that time and I reflect on my business for the year. I read Miracle Morning. I try to do some reading, and I try to read industry related books. Like this year at EXPCon, we got some books that were available with Brian Carrington. So I had a couple of those with me. And I really try to reflect on my business and figure out, what am I going to do differently? This year, while I was out there, I took a week and I attended Glover U Summit. And it was just a different type of training that I wanted to figure out, like, maybe I can get some new insight and see. And so I feel like there were a lot of EXP agents there. And so I was able to kind of go with them and just take that in and apply it to things in my business. And one of the big things there is leverage and listings and focus on listings. And I know that's a thing. So now I've got to do the things to get better and really get out of my comfort zone in calling those strangers that I don't know and the things that I don't love to do, but I know it's important. And so every January, I just have to dig deep and figure out, what is it that's going to be different this year to make me scale up. Even if it's one more house or whatever, it has to be growth for me. So
I love it, Rebecca. You're giving a few more distinctions. People who are watching this are like, I would love to be an icon agent. I would love to sell 30, 40, 50 houses a year. One, you're growth minded. Every year you're looking at growth. And two, right? You're willing to get out of your comfort zone. And it doesn't matter what the source is for who it is. I'm going to come back to something. And Jason, did you have a question for Rebecca?
Um, no.
Oh, I thought
I
you.
just while I'm on here, just does anybody on the call know who Mike Shum is? No.
No, never heard
So
of Mike.
Mike's a coach I was lucky enough to work with and still friends with, and he helped the team I was on while we were going through really rapid growth. And when we were a small team, we would grow 1.5 times year over year over year until that became hard to sustain. And we started doing Zillow Flex and chasing shinier objects, right? And when we were growing and we were market leaders, right? But our profitability was shrinking year over year. And so along your journey, while you're figuring out those things that work for you, Mike encouraged us to know where your profit centers were and your revenue streams and what was really making you money, and focusing on those and trying to maintain industry standard profit levels along the way, so that you weren't growing yourself into a bigger hole every year. So just food for thought when people consider scaling.
yeah, I definitely, without a doubt, feel that that's super important. I know when I first started, I thought I had to buy leads. And what
People will convince you that you do. That's
it's the
and they're
biggest
really
waste of
convincing.
money.
So this is the show. As I say, the show, Jason, I'm happy you're chiming in about it. It's great. And Rebecca, I know this was about you. I'm just going to play devil's advocate there for a minute. I don't think paying for leads are bad. I think it depends on your personality, the style you like to
Mhm.
work, and your return on investment. Like I had a giant team for a while, 21 agents. We spent 20 grand a month on Realtor.com alone, just by itself. We spent 20 grand on Realtor.com, but my ROI on it, because I was buying them pretty cheap back in early days of Realtor.com for this last cycle, and my team is converting well and price points are high in San Diego, we're getting like a 7 or 8 times return on investment, right?
Yeah.
So we spent 20 grand a month, but we were making, over 100, close to 150,000 a month gross revenue. That's go ahead, Rebecca.
I feel like there's a difference too with team versus solo agent, because as a team, you take those leads and you spread them across a number of people. If I had a team buying into something like that, is probably looks a lot different than when I did it as a solo agent. And you're doing it or did it through I don't want to say known source, but like I spent money on, I initially market leader was a thing and it was like a monthly fee and not one of them converted. Now, I know some of it was me and my follow-up and not knowing, but this was back in my first year and a half. I didn't have any of the training. That was my biggest issue starting. Why I sold 5 houses in 1 year or a year and a half was because I didn't have the training. And moving to EXP, that was a game changer. Like everything fell into place. I was able to have so much more training available to me and people that like cared and were supportive of my business. And it wasn't a competition amongst the agents that were sitting next to me. And it was, we all were able to collaborate. So that was a big difference there. Market leader, I had no clue what I was doing. And then at some point I thought it was a good idea to buy from a program called Cheap Ass Leads. Okay, what was I thinking? Like,
Well, you got cheap ass leads.
right.
It didn't say it's cheap ass closings.
Right,
Cheap ass
right,
leads.
exactly. So again, some of it was probably on me, but like as a solo agent, anything that came in, I had to be the one to follow up. I had to be the one to do all the things and get them figured out. And I was still at the point of not necessarily knowing or even being comfortable with what do I do when they challenge me and ask me a question and I don't know the answer because I was newer. I mean, 5 houses was nothing. Like I didn't really, I was still trying to, make sure that I checked everything on the contract, that I had it all filled out correctly. Having so few under my belt, now I can probably write a contract in my sleep because I've written a bazillion in one of them. So that was a difference for me too, but I still feel like the money that I've spent has been better at the pay at closing, so it's not coming out of my pocket. And the quality of the leads are, for me, were just very different. Realtor.com and Zillow, we all know everybody goes to Realtor.com and Zillow. How many clients of mine will send me a Zillow link or a Realtor.com link on a house that they want to see when they're in a search portal on my website? So you can just, where they're going. Like it's just, those are the two platforms that every person that's looking for a house knows of.
So we got about 5 minutes left, and I want
That
to
went
change it.
fast.
I know, well, but that's because we have so much to talk about. So we're gonna. I messaged with Autumn, who helps run Agent Power Huddle. We're gonna schedule it either you and me next week if you want to talk offline, or if you want to do it like in front of people. Whether we have an Agent Power Huddle slot available, we'll promote it, Liliana, if you want to be here, right? Or we can just call it leverage, and we'll just do a talk mainly you and me, but other agents can jump in, so it's not just me picking on you. We can talk with lots of people. Jason, you want to show up? We can talk through leverage and systems that depending on where you're at with your business, that stuff matters, right? And I think what you're describing here with the lead sources, it also depends on what's going on in the market, your local market. Because even though you said Zillow and Realtor.com or ever buyer goes there, last year the conversion rate went way down because buyers conversion went way down, period. The lead flow didn't come down. People were still generating leads. They just weren't converting. So your return on investment dropped off last year. Here's what
Before
I'd
you
like
go
to do.
to Autumn, Rebecca, great job on having systems, whether you even realize it or not, just being a solo agent, doing that many deals, you have systems that are working for you. So good job on that.
Thank
You
you.
really do.
Thank
Here's where I
you.
want to wrap up, Rebecca, because we only have 5 minutes, but here's what I want you to say. I know you can't explain this in 4 minutes because it's just who you are. I've talked to you enough times to know like you're just a really good agent. But when you say, I get a referral from almost everyone I work with, what do you think it is? If you could break it down into one or two things you do, give us some tips here. How do you end up generating so many referrals?
I think that I really try to make sure that they know I have their best interest at heart. It's not the commission check for me. Like if it comes down to, we have the buyer broker agreement and this is what I put on there for my compensation. If it comes down to the end of the contract and we're a little bit off and we've pulled out everything that we can, titles given, whatever, there's room. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to let my client not get the house because I need to make a couple hundred extra dollars. Like my clients know that I truly have their best interest. Now, I'm not going to just cut my commissions to win a deal, but if we're through that process, they know I will never push them into a house that they don't want. Like I build that relationship so they can trust me and know that they're my priority in listening to what they want and hearing what they need. And so just that relationship, like it's truly about the relationship. And then once they move in, and I never used to do this, but once they move in, like a week later, how's everything going? Like we close the deal and like the brokers yell at me all the time because after it closes, they'll message and they need something and I'll message the broker like, well, they're like, stop. Why are that transaction's done. Your insurance is done. But at some point, they're gonna sell that house and buy a new one. And guess who? They're coming to me because I now make sure I have those follow-ups and that I am checking in from a genuine place. And I do things that I pay for a couple programs that quarterly they get something from me, whether it be a little, I use the personal marketing company. They have like the little mini magazines that go out and there are helpful home tips. There's a recipe, there's something, community wise, national parks, anything that's like not just garbage that goes in the trash can. And so I try to maintain that and have them after they move in. I haven't forgotten about you. How's everything going? Do you need anything? And just really, they know that I'm a human. I know that they're human and I genuinely care about how everything's going in their house. So I think that's probably why they know that it's not just me selling a house to sell a house. Like we won't walk in the first one and be like, okay, are you ready to write? Like I give everybody the same type of conversation. Like if this is the one, then let me know. If it's not, let me know the next one you want to see. And then when we're writing an offer, I tell them all the same thing. I'm not just going to say, oh, you need to offer $5,000 more than listing. Here's where we are. We know that we're in multiples. If you offer list price and you lose it to somebody who went $2,000 over, are you going to be okay with that? Or are you going to be like, oh my God, I would have went up $2,000? If you can answer that you're okay with where you're at, then that's your offer. And if we lose it and we feel good about it. If you go under, if you offer 195 and it's listed at 200, if you lose it to 197, are you going to be okay with that? And genuinely, I want them to tell me I don't want to force them into be like, well, you have to offer over to get it. You tell me where you're good and know that I'm okay with it.
I love it, Rebecca. Every time I listen to you talk, it comes down to the same thing. People know you have their back. People know you care about them. And it's not one thing, it's every interaction you do. I'll read a couple comments before I wrap up here. Jason, you had a really insightful comment. He said, Rebecca is a fiduciary, not just another salesperson, right?
Thank you.
You have their interest at heart. And Tina, who's here, by the way, just to support her friend, she said, Tina jumped on. She's like, if they know, like, and trust you, you stay top of mind always, and the referrals just come, right? Like, I thought that it's Tina, you're spot on there. And she says she loves your honesty. People value that. Uh, Rebecca, I just want to say thank you for being here. as
Thank you for
always.
having me again.
It was not the conversation I thought we'd have, but I mean, you got amazing nuggets out, but it's interesting. So we will schedule that conversation on leverage, whether it's privately, publicly, however, if you'd like.
Whatever, I'm you know me, I'm flexible. If however you feel it's best is fine.
Yeah, I mean, do you think is it helpful for us to talk about leverage and see what we can do as you're reviewing your systems of business? All
For
right.
sure.
All right.
I need some help in leverage.
Let's do it.
I mean,
Lily?
I have systems, but believe me, if you saw me, you'd be like, oh my God, how is she closing out? Like,
I think you're probably not giving yourself enough credit, but yes, we will dive in. We will get into tweak them. So thank you for being here, Rebecca. This
Thank
is
you.
wonderful. If you guys need Rebecca Nedelka out of Cleveland, Ohio, you can put in whatever contact info in the chat box you want. Jason, thanks for being here. Tina, Matthew, Lily, good to see you guys.
Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.